Parents, what's the biggest secret you've kept from your kids that blew up in your face? Mine exploded the summer I turned 16, when the scent of jasmine in our backyard became a trigger I couldn't escape. It was the same perfume my mother wore on the night I found the letter. The envelope was thin, the paper inside brittle with age, tucked beneath the false bottom of her jewelry box where she thought no one would look. I wasn't snooping, not really. I'd been searching for the silver locket she'd promised to lend me for the school dance, the one with the tiny pearl clasp that always stuck, but the locket wasn't there. Instead, my fingers brushed against the corner of something stiff, and when I pulled it free, the world tilted. The handwriting wasn't hers. It was looping, elegant, the kind of script you see on wedding invitations, not the sharp, angular print my father used for his grocery list. Meet me at the usual place, it read. I can't stop thinking about you. No names, no dates, just those words, and the unmistakable scent of my mother's perfume clinging to the paper like a confession. My stomach twisted. I knew that perfume. She sprayed it every morning before leaving for her book club, the one she claimed was just a group of women who loved Jane Austen. But the letter wasn't from Jane Austen. For weeks, I carried the secret like a stone in my pocket. Every time my father laughed at the dinner table, every time my mother kissed his cheek, I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I watched. And that's when I noticed the way she treated my little brother Jake. He was 10 then, all gangly limbs and endless questions, and she treated him like he was made of glass. Extra dessert for no reason. Excuses when he forgot his homework. The kind of patience she'd never had with me. It wasn't just favoritism. It was guilt. She looked at him and saw innocence. She looked at me and saw my father's eyes. One evening I finally cracked. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that hums in your ears when something is about to break. Jake was at a sleepover. My father was in the garage pretending to fix a lawnmower that wasn't broken, and my mother was washing dishes with her back to me. I placed the letter on the counter beside the sink. She didn't turn around at first. The water kept running, the sponge kept scrubbing, but her shoulders tensed like she'd been waiting for this moment for years. What's this? I asked, though we both knew. She turned off the water. The silence that followed was thicker than the steam rising from the sink. Then she sighed, the kind of sigh that carries the weight of 1,000 lies. It's not what you think. Then what is it? My voice was steadier than I felt. She dried her hands on a towel, her movements slow, deliberate. Your father. She stopped, as if the words were too heavy to lift. He had an affair. A long time ago, before Jake was born. The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. And you stayed. She nodded, her eyes glistening. I thought I could fix it. For you. For Jake. For us. Her voice broke. I didn't want you to grow up in a broken home. That's when it hit me. All those times she'd snapped at me for leaving my shoes in the hallway, for talking back, for being too much like him. It wasn't about the shoes. It wasn't about the back talk. It was about the guilt. She couldn't stand to look at me because I reminded her of the man who'd betrayed her. And Jake? He was her second chance. Her do-over. I wanted to hate her. But standing there, with the scent of jasmine thick in the air and the letter still damp from her tears, I realized something worse. I understood. She'd spent years trying to protect us from the truth, but all she'd done was poison the air between us. The lies had festered, turning love into something brittle, something that could shatter with a single word. That night, I told my father I knew. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised, just ashamed. And my mother? She cried for the first time in front of me. Not quiet, dignified tears, but great, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Jake came home the next day, oblivious, and for the first time, my mother hugged me just as tightly as she hugged him. The lesson came slowly, like the first light of dawn after a long night. Secrets don't protect. They suffocate. Honesty might hurt, but lies? They kill the trust between people one silent breath at a time. And trust, once broken, is harder to mend than any marriage.